Okay, hello and welcome to the Pretzels and Tea podcast for this week and the previous week because I'm an idiot and forgot to actually record it. So I guess we'll start off railing off topics and seeing how people are feelings. Actually, we'll probably should start with introductions. Considering I've never had either of you on as a guest before, we'll start with Kindra. Who are
Oh.
you and what the hell do you do on the internet?
On Twitter, I'm a woman in blue, or formerly Amalthea. I just changed my username like 2 days ago. And on Kia, I'm Kindraness. And I basically do shit like this, and I'd have articles for Medium about Gamergate and other social, vaguely related issues.
Okay. And Ian, who the hell are you and what do you do on the internet?
Hi, I run the Facebook group Gamergate Ultras, and I do a bit of Twitter and try and push some stuff on Tumblr, and just generally do Gamergate signal boosting. I share a lot of YouTubes and encourage people to make podcasts and stuff, and just spam a lot of news about. That's me.
Cool. Sounds good. You already know who me and Mozzie are if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts. If you haven't, then how could you? We are making quality content here, and you should watch all of it. We're going to start off our first sort of newsy article that happened 2 weeks ago was Ben Kuchera decided to attack EA over Twitter. Specifically, I believe it was the EA PR manager. Did any of you guys see this? Hear about this?
You mean the Chris Menzel incident?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And what is it? Chris had said something. He'd shared a Gamergate post or something, was it?
No, he okay.
said-
Milo said some game or some film is inherently feministic, and then Chris Menzel retweeted that and suddenly lost a lot of followers because he landed on the block mob due to it.
What it was Milo made a post saying, "Did you know chess is a feminist game because the queen is the most powerful thing?" And Mansell thought it was funny, so he retweeted it. And just retweeting it and following Milo landed him on the block bot, cost him 2,500 followers. So he wrote an article on his personal blog, and he even mentioned Ben Kuchera in his article and even praised him because he wrote an article about something I don't remember because Chris had to remove it.
It was how to deal with harassment online. It was a Ben Kuchera post on how to deal with harassment online. He promoted it and said it was a great sort of article, and Ben Kuchera basically told him to fuck off and never quote any of his stuff again.
Oh, yeah. Ben is not good at making friends, is he?
No, he's not.
Ben's not even good at promoting his own material. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. This guy's giving you free publicity and you're insulting him?
Positive publicity, too. It wasn't even like he said something negative or neutral. He praised him, and he still said, well, I don't want you quoting me. I don't want to be supporting that. And I was like, wow, I just...
But why, though?
What do you mean, why?
Like, you just... If someone's giving you free positive publicity, even if it's someone I disagree with, I would still be like, you know what, thank you. It's okay with me.
It's very arbitrary, this hate campaign they run, isn't it? Because you don't have to do anything to get complete condemnation and blacklisting from Ben Kuchera, evidently. And you can't even apologise, you can't try and build bridges and make it good. He'll throw that back in your face. It just showed, isn't it?
You see, Ian, I think what the issue is, I think where we're all getting it wrong is there's this thing we all do that pisses Ben Kuchera off. It's called breathing in and out. It irritates him too much. He can't handle it.
Yeah.
The idea of other people breathing triggers him.
On a more specific note, if anyone wants to participate in that regard, even though it's sort of 2 weeks off now, could go back to Chris Menzel's mentions. Find all the tweets of whatever people Ben Kuchera rallied together to go after Chris Menzel and to tweet at EA, because with all these tweets archived and the images and everything, once again a thing happens, a GDC-esque thing. This is one more thing that we can spam there when we hijack the hashtags.
Yes, indeed. And at the end of the day, if Ben Kuchera and people like him continue to piss off devs, they are just no longer going to get review copies of anything. And as we already know, review copies are extremely important to any reviewer to get that early access out. I mean, they're going to tie their own noose. Yeah?
Speaking of which, did we mention review copies and Jim Sterling?
Review
No,
copies.
it's finding that difficult.
What happened? I'm unaware of this.
Jim Sterling was denied a review copy for what game was it?
It's a very minor thing. It's one company that denied one review copy, and that it was Square Enix, and they denied Final Fantasy something X something.
Yeah, and Jim blew it up on his Twitter.
And people were laughing about it, and then Total Biscuit ran to Jim Sterling's aid for some reason.
Well, those two are friends. They're friendly.
And, I agree often, or mostly with Total Biscuit, but here it's absolutely no. A company, if we're going to allow companies to send review copies, then the company should be allowed to choose whether it wants to or not.
Yeah, I suppose so. Just purely for utterly apolitical reasons, they might not want Jim Sterling's kind of review on their product. They might just think, well, he's not going to like this, so we don't really even want to bother.
And he's free to review it after it's released. I mean, it's not like he can't review it. It's not like he signed an NDA or anything on the game.
Yeah, he just can't do a very prescient review that will be useful to people.
Unless you're looking to buy it afterwards during sale. But that's what happens when you piss people off. That's what happens when you support doxing, Jim Sterling. If you ever listen to this, you're supporting doxing, for fuck's sake. Anyway.
A lot of companies, and I've heard this from many YouTubers, the difference between getting a review copy and not getting a review copy is your fan base. Now, because Jim's recently moved to YouTube, set up on his own, we don't know what kind of fan base he has yet. If it isn't quite large enough, they might have refused just for that reason. No, we can't be bothered. They might not even know who Jim Sterling is. You know.
I doubt they don't know who Jim Sterling is, but it wouldn't surprise me if he continues the way he's going. If in 5 years none of us have any idea who Jim Sterling is.
Yeah, we think he was probably some Mafia impersonator or something.
Jimmy the Sterling. Sorry, that was a terrible accent. I'm sorry. God, that was bad. I apologize. Alright. Our next thing we got to talk about here is hashtag Rebuild Initiative is finally starting to get results. Devs are starting to, I'm pretty sure it's devs, are getting letters from the Rebuild Initiative, and we're starting to see actual progress. So anyone who's involved in that stuff, pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good job and keep going. What do you guys think about it? Are you guys looking forward to seeing some good journalism out there?
Well, I think it's fantastic. Even if it doesn't accomplish anything, it's a positive initiative, and people, thanking developers, thanking journalists who do well, and even if that doesn't account for anything except for making people feel good, I still count that as something.
It's a great example of a Hearts and Minds campaign, isn't it? You actually get out there, boots on the ground, being nice, and that is always going to buy you more respect. Whether it actually does anything, really, I mean, maybe it brings more devs to our side, maybe not. I mean, they really are so terrified, and love seldom trumps fear, I'm afraid.
Yes. What I seem to find is one interview where you go on and you're smiling is worth 1,000, 2,000 emails easy, because you will convince people more just with a genuine show of appreciation and friendship than you will with any sort of anonymous email. Not saying that emails are worthless, keep sending them, but
And handwritten letters too is what a lot of people like to do.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that was more effective, apparently.
Yeah, the handwritten letters. Whoever decided to do that was fantastic. That was a great idea. That was great. Moving on from that, unless anyone has anything else to say about the rebuild initiative. Anyone else have anything else to say? No? Cool. Alright, moving on, we have a bit of funny news. Any Game of Thrones fans here?
Uh,
Yeah?
Nope.
No?
Well,
No?
vaguely.
Alright.
No, not really.
No Game of
I need
Thrones
to watch
fans.
it. No.
God, you uncultured pigs.
I can't afford it.
They tweeted out promotional material for the latest Game of Thrones, and instead of hashtagging it as Game of Thrones, they hashtagged it as Gamergate, which I thought was pretty funny.
Oh yes.
Fired.
Oh, we saw that, and they had.
There's been a few people who did it, because Google did that. One of their pages did the exact same thing. And you think, I almost thought it was a mistake, because, no, wait a minute.
There's loads of people saying, "Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the premiere of Gamergate." And stuff. What? Premiere?
Gamergate.
George Owen's going to be so pleased.
Oh man.
Just imagining the trailer
Yes,
for this.
Yeah.
I want to get played by Leonardo DiCaprio, just so you guys know. Getting on record
No.
now.
He
You
still
guys
won't
gonna
win an
play me in
Oscar.
the premiere. No, he won't, but you know.
I don't want even a human representation. I just
Uh,
want a CG animated cat.
Just,
Yes.
just a CG cat just randomly appearing in the corner.
Yes.
There he
Yeah.
is.
That's the way to do it, isn't it? Make Gamergate an animated film. Shed loads
Would
of
make more sense.
Oh yeah.
It'll be a Disney film with song numbers and.
Yeah. We've already got the musical tunes, haven't we? I mean,
Oh yeah, man. Some of the music coming out of Gamergate's great. I love it.
all we need is the animators. It's done, more or less.
Hey, if we get some more game devs on our side, they do animation, so we can get this shit done.
Possibly. Yeah. It would be.
Next up, we have a small piece of news that I found quite interesting. I don't really know what to make of this. I wonder what you guys will think. Leigh Alexander's Twitter account is no longer verified.
I actually know why that is, probably. She
Oh,
was
do you?
banned for like 30 minutes or something. She was banned from Twitter. We don't really know why. Some people think it's just a publicity stunt, like she got herself banned just so she could be like, oh, look at me, I got banned. It's all Gamergate's fault. But she lost her verification from that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not sure. What not sure by no longer? Do you mean no longer since her account redid her account, or do you mean no longer that something happened after that?
When
Because-
you get banned from Twitter, if you're verified, you lose your verification, and I think you have to redo the process. So when she was banned, she lost her verification, and she hasn't gotten it back yet.
You'd
Yeah.
think that's something she'd jump on though, to like get the verification back. You'd think that's
Well-
something that she'd like want. Yeah, go on, Ian.
But the thing is, didn't Randy Harper go and talk to her pal who works for Twitter to get her account back? So I
That's
presume
what-
I presume if they've done something slightly through the old girls network, then they don't want to bash on too much with the real people on Twitter. They don't want it to
If-
escalate up the chain.
If she got her verification back, like, exceedingly quickly, then there are a lot of other people who had to wait for months to get their verification who would take note of that, and then they'd take it up with Twitter and be like, how come it took me months, but she got banned and got it almost immediately after. So they
Yeah.
probably don't want to draw more attention to it than they already have.
Yeah, especially with all of us watching. Yeah.
I just found that was interesting, and I didn't actually know that she'd gotten banned. Like that explains it all. I was curious as to whether this was something we'd see continuing to happen, but I guess never mind.
It was
Although
the
I did
fastest
see-
ban I've ever seen in my life.
I did see I think it was Milo Yiannopoulos is now verified, so awesome.
Ah.
Hats off
Yeah.
to him.
Hmm.
The next piece of news, does anyone else have anything to say on the verified shit?
Well,
No.
I just don't really understand what verification does for people. I mean, why is it desirable?
It's mostly done towards like famous people, celebrities, people in the media, in order to let people know that this is the official Twitter of, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio, and not some
Right.
fangirl faking an account. That's
So
basically
it means we can fake Leah Alexander now, can we?
apparently so. We can, and we can put all the racism that we want on there, and no one would notice the difference.
They just wouldn't. Yeah, you're right. There's no point in doing it. Is there? We're not going to be able to do a better impression of her than she
Yeah.
did.
Do you really think we'll be able to outlay Alexander? Lay Alexander? Because I don't think we can.
Yes, I am the real.
Yeah, it'd have to take classes in her weird racist but modern language, and you'd have to.
You couldn't get a racist to do it. You couldn't get a progressive to do it. You'd have to like have a group of them to sort of like a writers' team to make tweets for them. We'll do it up in Skype. We'll borrow some people from Pole and Lefty Pole, and they can probably just get there.
I just have an image now of like two offices, one with progressives in, the other with like Ku Klux Klan members.
Yeah,
What's going on?
Yeah, all passing tweets and bottles of whiskey back and forth.
Brilliant. 10 out of 10. Would buy again. But yeah, that happened. The next thing we have on our list is Randy Harper is now deciding to go after Loot Crate. Due to a bit of a falling out. Yeah, a bit of a falling out.
Do you have a link on it?
I don't actually. I probably should have.
Here, I found the tweet.
Perfect.
It's in the chat.
Haha! I'll bring that up.
Speaking of Randy Harper, actually, since we're at Randy Harper,
I'm going to chuck it on the cast. There we go. Now everyone can see it.
Since the last Pretzels and Tea, we had a few things happening regarding Randy Harper. The Mark Kern helped get this Blockbot into trouble, and then she took it down and just instantly relaunched it in America under a QT collective.
Yeah.
Was that her auto blocker or was that the Blockbot? Because they're
the Blockbot.
two. Okay, because those are two different. There's the GG auto blocker which is Harper's mess, and then the Blockbot, which is not quite as much of a mess, but still kind of a mess. The one with the levels.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to get lots of them together, and they will try and eventually compile them into one master list, whereby they can. And it isn't really even blocking us. They want to lock their own people into their message and no one else's, because that's effectively the other thing it does that we don't consider. Sure, it messes up the trade, apparently, of game devs and their ability to communicate. But what it does in terms of a cult practice is really lock them all into a big room, into their hug box, where there will be no dissenting opinions.
But the problem is, some of them market it as a blacklist, though, as this is the people you don't want to hire. And people who don't know any better, or who like just haven't heard the other side, and they hear this side, and they convince them you don't even want to hear the other side because they're all a bunch of racists, could use it as a blacklist, and so that's why it is a little bit concerning. But I think people are taking it less and less seriously. Just because
one of the things Mark Kern was doing was trying to persuade her to remove all the pejoratives from the front of the list and that kind of thing. And I was thinking, well hang on, isn't that worse? Because now people just aren't going to know what it's about at all. They might think you're some kind of thief or something, or you punch your boss out or something, like, which is kind of even worse, because then
there's no context.
More seriously, there's no context. Yeah, people's worst fears would be worse than like, oh, some red-haired lesbian has called this guy a misogynist. Yeah, I don't think that's a big problem to employment.
To be fair, though, they do tend to put on, like, they can make up whatever they want, essentially. So I've seen them tag things, this is the most ridiculous tags ever of people who are racist, but when you go to the tweet they were, like, reported for, there wasn't even anything about race.
Yeah.
So.
I think, I was reported...
The thing is, the turn this took might be a bit more positive than Ian makes it out to be. Because, it sets a precedent as to how they react towards libel. It's mostly about libel, because the Blockbot on the site already had somehow that someone who has this level is a harasser of this degree and is guilty of this and that, and we took that down and relaunched it as just a Blockbot from the Collect QT, and that is from the Collect QT might not be such a bad thing. If you look at their site,
Really? Because I've seen
I can tell
Quinn
you.
wearing T-shirts saying "cuties killing video games," and I think that's what
I
that
can,
refers to.
I can
No,
tell
no,
you exactly why the pejoratives were taken down from a legal point of view. I can tell you exactly why. And the reason why the reason the reason why they took the statements of this person's harasser, this person's racist, so on and so forth, they took that out because in England there is laws against saying shit like that and having no evidence to back it up. Now, I was on that website. I was level 1, I'm pretty sure. I am level 1. And I was under there as racist, as a harasser, and as a misogynist. All based on one tweet in which I asked Shanley if she wouldn't harass us today. Now, because that one tweet had nothing to do with anything stated, the stuff that was affiliated with it would have been defamation of character, which under UK law is illegal. And because I'm living in the UK, I could have legally sued her. And that's why they changed it, because they didn't want a lawsuit on their hands. And they know we would have won. They know we would have won. They have
And
no
they still-
evidence.
They still have some legal problems they're working out, and I don't think that the people I don't remember who they partnered with, because I've read the site of the people who they partnered with, and I was expecting they picked up somebody a little bit more neutral who could actually help with the legal issues, and instead they picked the most radical group possible that actually proudly says that they are reverse racist at the same time saying reverse racism isn't a thing.
not
And I'm like,
real.
This is exactly what I was referring to. It's maybe something more positive because people then go to that site, to go to that Collect QT site, and read these pages and see they're complete lunatics.
Yep.
For crying out loud, they have a page where they unironically write that capitalism is inherently oppressive.
Yes. And there's other wonderful things there about allies are toxic minions are useful. So
Yes.
any straight people who want to join their thing have got to become minions. It's great.
You've got to be
isn't it?
minions. You must grovel, straight white men.
Lee Alexander has said very much the same thing about her site. Boing boing whatever, mindfuck or whatever it's
is it
called.
Offworld?
Yeah, it's
Offworld,
Offworld.
that's it. Yeah,
Offworld
not
is
Mindfuck.
owned by Boing Boing. That's how that works.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, boing boing. I'm sure you're very nice people, but mindfuck. No, what's it called? Offworld is a very different thing. So yeah, you've got Lee Alexander's mindfuck there, and she's saying basically the same thing. That if you want to come and do pictures or art for us, we might let you because it'll free up more important women to do things. Like,
Yeah.
I actually have a friend who went on her site and pointed out that she has only one person of color writing for her, even though she proclaims that's one of the people she's representing, and there's only one. And there is only one man, and he is not a person of color. He's a white man. That is the only man writing for her. Everyone else is white women.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's diversity for you.
Yeah. It's almost as if they don't actually care about minorities. Huh.
Yeah, well, San Francisco as a town and as a city, has the highest wage gap of anywhere in the United States, apparently. So the rich are very rich,
Really?
the poor are incredibly poor.
Oh, so you mean the difference between rich and poor, like the difference between classes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And
because
also
San
there's a
Francisco's a big tech area.
It is a
but
tech
also
area.
a big poverty area, so
Yeah,
a lot of disparity.
and there's a big problem with gentrification because more new people are coming into the tech industry. Areas that have traditionally been lived in by communities that grew up around San Francisco and their minorities, essentially, they're getting sort of moved out of places like Oakland even further because all these new people. There's a lot of protests about the Google bus because Google runs a free bus service between their head office and Oakland, which gets all the techies into work in the morning and that kind of thing. And the real social justice warriors in San Francisco hate this because it's causing all this gentrification and pushing the people from the area out of the area. So it's very much a polarized town, even in terms of their progressives and their progressive views. It's fascinating.
Man, it is fascinating, but I'm gonna view it from over here in England. You you Americans are running a very strange country over there. Very strange. I'll view it from over here where it's slightly safer. Then again, we have Margaret Thatcher, so you know.
I'm not an American. I'm English too.
Oh no, just for our viewers.
Yeah.
That's for our viewers. That's for our viewers.
Yeah.
We're actually kindred. You might be from America. I don't know.
I am. I'm from California. I live like 2 hours away from San Francisco, so I know it.
Cool. So we can just blame all of this on you. Awesome.
Yeah. But then again, I'm also the only woman here, so you know.
Yeah. That ain't gonna fly, is it?
Didn't think
didn't
that
know I'd
through.
been invited to a misogynist show like this. Oh dear. Terrible.
An inherently oppressive show.
Yeah.
Yes, we oppress everyone equally. So, does anyone else have anything left to say on Randy Harper, Loot Crate, Blockbot, and all that good stuff?
No.
Or bad stuff, I guess. Alright, let's move on to hashtag change the color. Change the cover.
Change the cover. All right.
Change
Yeah.
the cover.
Not
Not
change
change
the colour.
color. God, I need more sugar.
DC Comics screwing up there. It's just
Yeah.
It was just a marketing error, really.
Yeah.
But it drew attention to a lot of things that are going on in the comic industry that might be a very good spark later on.
Yes, it's looking like. If any of you are interested, I highly suggest that you look into the Otter Jesus. He's putting out a lot of good information with regards to the change the cover stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So have a look at some of his tweets. He's doing some good work over there. Yeah, change the cover. For those of you who don't know, it spawned from a Batgirl. I think it was Batgirl.
It was
cover
Batgirl
with.
number 41.
Yeah, I can never. It's always Batgirl or Batwoman. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah.
It's her and the Joker, and the Joker's kidnapped her. She looks scared, and he's like painting a big smile on her face with like red paint on his finger, and he's holding a gun. Being kidnapped by the Joker, just gonna put it out there, fairly terrifying. You know, I think any person here, if they were kidnapped by the Joker, would look equally terrified.
And with Barbara Gordon, with Batgirl specifically, she has like a very complex history with the Joker.
Yeah.
Like the Joker is actually the one who broke her spine and basically ridiculed her, terrified her father, the Commissioner Gordon. And so with her, it's a very specific thing. Her relationship with the Joker is kind of like Batman's relationship with Bane, in that it's a lot more complicated than just the Joker's a scary guy. Like, no, she understands better than anybody in that universe how terrifying the Joker is, which is why the cover was made. There was a tribute to that history. And that's why it was more insulting when people insisted, don't take it down, because, like, no, this actually happened. You can't just ignore this.
Yeah, this is
it's
actual
revisionism.
history.
Sorry.
Yes.
So you go in, you go. I talk over you all the time.
It's revisionism, and they're always pulling this. I mean, to an extent, the recent thing that happened with National Cleavage Day, when Lionheart pulled their picture and then put up another one, then pulled back, did a little dance and some apologies. But it's exactly the same issue, that they want to change what is real and what was real, to make it easier in future to indoctrinate people that they are right, because they're going to make it look like they have always been right as well. If they really push their progressive revolution idea, then they would like to eradicate any past that's different to it. I saw a wonderful thing the other day that was written by an excellent feminist. She had gone through, I think it's Scipio's book or somebody's, one of these ancient Roman authors had written a book, The 12 Great Caesars or something, and she was going to rewrite this whole thing, putting people as gay, lesbian, and trans characters, the roles of these Roman emperors, written through that viewpoint. And you think, well, that's a silly thing to do initially, and then you think, well, no, not if one day, say, like 10 years down the line, they're going to start sticking that in schools and passing it off as the reality. And it's worrying. It's worrying. Everyone has done historical revisionism that has a dodgy new ideology to sell. And I mean, certainly when you look at ISIS smashing up the statues and bulldozing Nineveh in recent months, then It's our cultural version of that. There's a kind of cultural war going on that we don't understand. We must be very wary of.
And it's nothing new. The motivations just change. And the Batgirls cover especially, it really irritated me because it was like they try to make it where video games, they never reflect violence that happens. Because violence does happen in real life. And it does happen against men. It happens against women. And when media tries to present it, they're always very careful about it. But they want to censor it and hide it and say, no, we can't portray that. It might encourage it. It's like, no, it doesn't encourage it. It's reflecting it. Nobody's looking at that cover and thinking, oh, the Joker's so badass, I'm going to go do that. They're thinking, wow, the Joker's a fucked up person and this is fucked up. It gives people more sympathy than less. But if we try to hide it and make our comics and our media make it all just happy, pretty, fun times, the new Thor comic with the female Thor who has all the cheesy lines and nothing really bad ever happens, it's all just a cartoon, then
so retrograde,
it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. But
that's what comics were like years ago. They were silly and puerile and nothing bad ever happened really to anyone. And then the graphic novel came along and changed all that, and it's been great since. There's no way anyone would want to go back, surely. Even feminists.
I'd like a couple of them to go back just because I like that style, but that's about it. I like the over cheesy, but that's about it.
We'll go back just so we could have the Adam West TV show back.
Yes, more of that, please. I want more of that. But yeah, like you were saying, whenever people bring up the whole, this violence is causing real life violence, or this violence is not okay to be shown, I always bring up two pieces of media that really show this happening quite graphically. One is Django Unchained, the recent movie by Tarantino. That shows racism. That shows people calling each other niggers. It's showing it. It's not encouraging it. There's a difference. And it's something that a lot of people seem to forget, is there is a difference between depicting something and encouraging something.
That's like, I saw someone complaining about Princess and the Frog, which is the Disney movie with the black princess, how her and her mother sit in the back of the bus, and they're like, well, that's racist. And I'm like, no, that's reality. It's set in the 1920s, and they're black. They're going to sit at the back of the bus. That's how reality was.
Yeah. There's a difference between showing it and then going, this is great.
Correct. Well, sorry, mate.
No, you go. You were basically saying what I was saying.
Yeah, well, exactly. We're agreed. Like that. Yes, that is racism. There was racism. That's what it was about. It wasn't all Ku Klux Klan. The bad bit was you were always on the back of the bus. You always had to drink from a different tap, which probably didn't work. You couldn't go into that restaurant. You couldn't go into that shop. And that was the horror of systematic institutionalized racism.
Yes.
And it's often very, very silly when the left just go, oh, slavery, this is racism, slavery, because it covers up the more insidious side of it. And it makes us unable to recognize that the racism is being turned around now, in a way. Because I think we've sort of discovered from today, there's been a couple of mentions of reverse racism and it not being real, but it being real when they need it to be. So clearly that is one of their agendas. Blame everything on white people.
Yes. We are white people, we are the white devil. I think basically we can sum all this up in one quote, which I'm going to fucking coin now. Don't be a dick to each other, and regardless of skin colour, in real life, and when it comes to media, do whatever the fuck you want if you think it works in the setting. But yeah, we rambled on that for a little bit too long. I'm going to move on to... No worries. It was a great discussion. I didn't expect us to get quite so much out of it. The next thing we've got is Mr. Repsion, the YouTuber. He made a bunch of pro-atheism videos, and he made a couple of videos critiquing Anita Sarkeesian as well. Now, Anita Sarkeesian recently received a death threat in the mail, signed by Mr. Repsion. Now, Mr. Repsion
the threat was the supposed threat was in October.
Oh,
took
was
the
it? Oh,
FBI
okay.
so long to get it around to visiting Mr. Epsilon.
Oh, well, correction, October. But yeah, apparently someone faked a death threat from Mr. Epsilon and sent it to Anita.
Was that the person who threatened the mass shooting, or was that a different thing that happened in October?
Different thing.
The mass shooting, that letter was anonymous.
Mm.
And
No,
that,
the letter this was about was genuinely signed as Mr. Repsion Gamergate.
Yes.
yeah,
Because that sounds totally legitimate.
Yeah, his return address. Like, please deliver all mail to Gamergate for me. The postman.
Gamergate at Not Your Shield Street.
Street. Yeah.
But yeah,
Open
like
9 till 5.
yeah, who else didn't see that the fact that Anita's getting fake death threats from Gamergate? I wonder who was telling her that the death threats were fake all this time. Oh yeah, it was us. We were telling her that they're fake and that she shouldn't worry for her life because it's probably just trolls. Turns out it was just trolls, and we were right.
This is the second time this has happened where someone came out and was like, no, yeah, that was totally a troll. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, it wasn't real. And we were like, yeah, we've been saying that. Nobody listens.
No one.
Nope. I feel like Dr. House sometimes, just constantly saying the truth. No one listens, no matter what.
Narratives are powerful things. Counter narratives are very difficult to sell.
Narratives are stupid things. That's what they are. Same with ideologies. Next up, we have Jim Sterling, who has been DMCA'd recently.
Do we have a name on who was it?
I can find it for you if you fill in with some, I don't know, singing.
Yes.
Singing.
Singing. No, I don't. We can't do singing. We can chat about stuff though. So there's somebody else was talking to me about Jim Sterling today. We did. He got refused that game, didn't he? They wouldn't send him a review copy, and now he's been hit by DMCA's. Is it? It's shocking. There was some other chap who got his channel massively DMCA'd the other day, wasn't there? Or was that Jim? Probably was Jim.
Well, the thing
He
is,
didn't get massively. He got one taken down for DMCA.
yes. The thing is, I always think we should actually encourage the industry to use whatever means they have. You know, they can't do so much to support us.
Yes. But
You know, there are ways in which they can. One is, for instance, to deny review copies. One is, for instance, to not allow people to cover their games if they don't approve of those people.
Yeah.
And that way even the publishers and the devs can influence the media from their position.
Yep. Without having to say a word about anything. Without
Alright, I've got the
anywhere near a nasty issue.
But I think we want to be careful with that, because if we just do that, then we just end up with the reverse, where everything's the same, it's just different ideas getting circulated. Because right now, that's what the problem is that certain developers are using their power to sway journalists to give them positive coverage, to give them positive reviews, and to try to hide disclosure. And if we go around and start doing that the opposite way, where now they're trying to hide reviews they don't like using DMCA, then it becomes like not giving review copies, that's their right, because that's a special privilege. But trying to hide reviews, because from what I could tell, the review that he had wasn't necessarily anything terrible. It was just a DMCA thing. And I don't think it's done anything like ethically, like they didn't do it because they don't like Jim. It was just a DMCA notice. It was just taking down it because they didn't want their content up there.
I've just got the details for the DMCA here. Thank you, Kindra. The game in question is Skateman Intense Rescue. Fantastic name for a video game. And the company in question is Digpex or Digpex? Digpex. I'm going to go with Digpex. That's a company that sent a false DMCA claim to Jim Sterling. this is some bullshit. Like what we think of Jim Sterling doesn't matter. This is false DMC claims are not okay.
Was it
how is it
a false or a real DMCA claim?
Uh,
So did he use copyrighted material or
I'm gonna
not?
say-
That's the important.
He did not use copyright material. Ian, what did you ask?
Well, I was just echoing Monsieur's point. Was it actually false? Because people are entitled to protect their copyright.
No, basically what happened, what Jim Sterling had done is there's greenlight trailers are put out from Steam by publishers.
Mm.
And what Jim often does is he takes those trailers and just comments over them. And just talks about what's happening in the trailer, in the advert for a specific game. And that's what got DMCA'd. It is
that
illegal.
is a copyright infringement because it will be over 30% of the whole broadcast.
It's not, because legally speaking, as soon as something's an advertisement, that goes into the public domain.
Oh, I see. Fair enough. Yeah.
If it's an advertisement, it's public domain. And as soon as the game's released, I'm pretty sure then it falls under legally it falls under critique or satire.
Fair
so
use.
It's still good. Yeah, that is
Fair
in itself fair use.
Oh, okay, but if it was fair, if it was all cut and clear, then it was false DMCA, and that's of course not okay then.
Yeah, it's not okay.
He can counter that. I'm not sure if he's gotten it back up or if his appeal has gone through, because I know that process takes a while sometimes. But I haven't heard anything about it since that one tweet.
The appeal takes ages. What's probably going to happen if they don't decide to pursue it is the video will be back up in about a week or so.
I thought it was just a completely legitimate DMCA claim, but
just so you guys know, previously we were talking about a Gamergate Disney movie. I've just had confirmation by Gator Music he's willing to do the music for the movie. So we're sorted.
Oh God.
Awesome,
We
let's do it.
have the soundtrack down. We have that ready to rock and roll. We just need actors now. Anyone watching who wants to be an actor, let me know. Hit me up. Let's do this.
Well, you can get all the
I might
real
say
people, can't you? You can get Monday Matt to play Monday Matt and Sargon to play Sargon. And
But we still put them in the credits. Sargon. Oh, could we get them to play each other? Could we get Monday Matt to play Sargon and Ricard?
Yes, that would be even better. Yeah, and it would give us an extra level of deniability and security.
We'll get Total Biscuit to play Jim Sterling in the movie.
No. No. Total Biscuit to play Paul. King of Paul.
No, Total Biscuit playing Brianna Wu.
if you've got the voice,
Hello, I'm Brianna Wu.
if you've got the voices for it, then do it properly. You get
all the women in
get Sam to
Gamergate.
play King of Paul, and you get John Kelly to play the Internet Aristocrat.
Oh yeah.
And
Samuel L. Jackson to play Anita Sarkeesian. Please make this a thing.
We have Robin Heffing playing Ralph.
Ah yes.
With his posh voice and trying to do Ralph in a sort of...
That would be brilliant. But yeah, we're sorted. We're good. We're good. This movie is going to be a thing. It's official.
Excellent.
I'm going on statement right here, right now. This movie is going to be made.
Oh,
I
no.
promise you guys.
They hold you.
Oh, trust me, I'm going to get crucified, but it will be worth it.
Fair enough.
Ah, man. Does anyone have anything left to say about the DMCA and Jim Sterling before we move on to the next thing? No, you're good. Alright, next up we have Richard Dawkins got pissed off at the Blockbot and has seemingly found out what Gamergate is. Now, Richard Dawkins got attacked by... let me get this straight, yeah. He asked what Gamergate was. Sargon of Akkad tried to explain it to him and put him onto some good resources. Someone attacked Sargon of Akkad, and Richard Dawkins defended Sargon of Akkad, so I just think that's awesome.
Some bloke popped up and That was it. Sargon had said, I can remember it now. Yeah, Sargon had said, these are the same type of people or something that tried to ban Newton's Principia Mathematica, or tried to say that it supported rape culture. And then someone pops up and said, Newton didn't write the Principia Mathematica, you moron. And then Richard Dawkins steps in and said, actually, Newton wrote the Biologica Historia Principia Mathematica, and Sargon is technically right. And certainly there's no need to call him a moron. I think you owe him an apology. And
I
this
like the
bloke was
Dawkins
like,
impression.
yeah, carry on, sorry. Yeah.
Mm.
And it was just like, ooh, burn, man. It was just so totally, oh, look, Richard Dawkins is just, And I went and looked at Sargon's wall and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
And on his Facebook, and there was a picture up there, like, kind of like, saying, yay, look, I've been, says, what was it, Richard Dawkins Senpai has noticed me. Oh, it was brilliant. The irony is excellent.
Yeah.
Richard Dawkins just has a tendency to make himself the enemy of anyone who is too partisan in one direction.
Yes.
You know, on one hand, religious people that can't stand him because he's an open and very vocal atheist, and on the other hand, social justice warriors can't stand him because he is not open to other kinds of belief systems either.
No.
He uses this thing called logic, and they just can't comprehend it. But yeah, Richard Dawkins, top-notch guy, and if
that's
he
the thing. Before social justice, atheism used to be known for skepticism and critical thinking. I mean, we would all practice logical fallacies on each other all day long. We were shit hot at that kind of crap. And then social justice came along, and it all stopped in favour of this groupthink hugbox shit that we see everywhere. It's very, very sad.
Look at Elevator Gate and Atheism Plus. I mean, PZ Myers just ruined it all, ruined the entire community. It's still recovering to this day.
Yeah, it's still very, very polarised. Yeah. There's groups you can't go in, really, if you're not totally right on.
Well, if you go into Atheism Plus now, I mean, I went on the other day just to see what was left, and all I could find was moderators moderating other moderators.
Yeah.
They were just yelling at each other. That was it, and they were all moderated. There was no guests. They were all just people running the site.
They have. That's not quite true. They have a following. They have either lurkers or something else, but there are people who go around in comment sections and the like, and who full on believe any word these bloggers write.
Oh yeah, no, they do exist, but that's just what I saw in a lot of the conversations that were meant to be happening.
I'll tell you what, though, it's very odd. You look at their Facebook page, there's an awful lot of posts from FTB, from Atheism Plus, but there's bugger all likes and bugger all comments. You know, it really looks very dead.
Well, most likely what happened was they just banned everybody, because I've been on Atheism Plus once, and I thought I was getting punked for a second, because it's how hypocritical their moderators are, and they are very open about it, is they will moderate your comment, and somebody else will do the exact same thing, literally right underneath that moderation, and they'll skip that one because they like that person. And you'll point it out, and then you'll get moderated for pointing it out because that's off topic. And it's so strange and kind of amusing to watch them do this with just no cognizance of all of how what they're doing is really
productive.
Opaquely.
Yes, it's just, you're idiots. You're like,
they don't hide it. They don't hide it at all. It's insane. But yeah, and we saw the same. I mean, we saw the same with Occupy Wall Street. I mean, that movement, it just doesn't exist anymore. If it does, it's a husk of its former power.
Did you see that?
Recently, I picked up what actually happened in the end, and it was somehow that the progressive stack put a certain group of people at the top, who then suggested that they should resort to violence, and then the police had, of course, the go to quench it instantly.
There was that, and also the progressive stack. The entire idea of the progressive stack took out a lot of very intelligent voices from the conversation, and they just left. They just went away, and after that, only the crazies were left. The freaking inmates were running the asylum. It really was quite something to behold.
And the rest of us came over here to Gamergate. Whoops.
Was Gamergate behind it all along?
It was us, Gamergate. Yeah, it was. Look,
Find out next time on
Find out.
Gamergate.
It was the colour cabal. We took over from the inside.
Game of Gators. The next
Oh.
season.
Color Cabal is secretly Gamergate, iTeam, and anti-Gamergate all at the same time.
On
Yeah.
the subject of Occupy Wall Street, we got a big up from Justine Tunney, who I think was the creator of Occupy Wall Street. She
Not
was
of Occupy Wall Street, of OccupyWallStreet.org, the website.
Right. I see, just a website. But she was this lady who presumably was fairly involved in that movement, though. At some point, she was running groups and stuff. She was very, very positive about us and saying things like we're the only people who've been able to stand up to SJWs and things like this. And I was sitting there going, yeah, woo. I felt like sensible gamer, like when the Gamergate board went down. It was good.
I feel like what's happened is atheism was always looking for social acceptance, and they bowed to anyone who would give them that social acceptance. And the same with Occupy Wall Street. They were trying to get public acceptance. They were trying to get other people to join them, to get pissed off with them and take down the corruption, the banking system. And that's why they were looking for any sort of social acceptance, anything that would make them seem more inclusive. Gamers, we've never had social acceptance, and we've never wanted it. We don't have an issue with pissing other people off. We don't care. So I think that's our biggest strength, is the fact that we will say what we think and fuck anyone else who disagrees with it, because if your feelings are your biggest argument, it means nothing to us. And because we just don't care. And I think that is why the SJWs haven't infected Gamergate in the same way that they did these other movements. They've just not been able to.
Well,
No.
maybe it's also because they were in this one case, other than with atheism and Occupy Wall Street, they were the enemy from the start.
Mm.
They were the ones that had journalists touting their stuff. They were the ones that had devs covering them.
Yeah.
They were the ones that buggered bigger news outlets to write smear pieces on us.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Drifted off a bit. What were we talking about again?
Hating minorities, I think.
It's oppressing minorities.
Oh, great. My favourite subject. Yeah. Minority then. Let's get going. Yeah.
Rubbing our hands together.
Yeah. What about the Dutch? I've never liked the Dutch.
Count as a minority.
Oh, but they're so tolerant, though, aren't they? You know. The funny voices.
So what's the next on the list?
They're just so nice, we can't trust them. Yeah. Next up I've got on the list is, anti-Gamergate claim that Sucker Punch was ruined by Gamergate, Sucker Punch being the movie that was released years before Gamergate was a thing. We somehow went back in time and ruined it. Because
we have a whole age of time machines, you know. To be fair, he does say Gamergate culture, but it's still pretty stupid.
Yeah, what? The culture wasn't a thing before Gamergate was a thing. Like, and just to go on record, I'm a proud member of Gamergate, and Sucker Punch is a fucking awesome film. So.
And I know he says Gamergate culture, and I feel like this is one of those situations where he's just like, Gamergate's getting a lot of views, so I'm gonna muscle it in here, and he's talking about something completely different. It's like, this isn't Gamergate culture. Gamergate culture is, I can't even really define it because I don't think it actually has one of those. It's people who like to play video games.
It's people who like to play video games.
This article will later pop up to haunt him. Yeah, be haunted by this article.
Yes, I have a feeling the Adam Kovac's statement of it's like Skyrim with guns. It's going to be the same situation where it's a statement or an article that's just going to follow him for the rest of his life, and he's never going to be able to get rid of it. People are just going to take the piss out of him.
Who said that again? Skyrim with guns?
Adam Kovac was talking about Far Cry 3. And he was trying to promote it, and he was really desperate in promoting it, and he randomly blurted out, "It's like Skyrim with guns." And for some reason, the PR guys latched onto it and ran with it. Adam Kovac of IGN.
Yeah, but I think people have said it's like Skyrim with guns about lots of games before, haven't they?
Oh no! Well, that was the start of it. That was the start of that whole.
The actual start of it.
That's where the meme comes from.
That's where the meme comes from. It was from Adam Kovac's statement on Far Cry 3.
I don't know, but I swear on some old Yogcast that they would say similar things to that. But it doesn't matter. It might be a long-running pre-meme that didn't really do anything until that happened. But sorry, yeah.
It might have been, but I know that was the first time a lot of people heard it was Adam Kovac, and that he's who it's affiliated with the majority of the time. So yeah, they're claiming that Sucker Punch is anti-Gamergate and that we ruined it. I just thought that was funny. The next thing is, National Women's Day happened recently. And Nintendo put out an article celebrating strong women characters in video games. Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently, some small video game character no one's ever heard of, like Samus Aran or Bayonetta, apparently aren't mainstream enough for these aggros to consider them strong female video game characters. What do you guys think?
So fucking stupid.
How much more mainstream do you get than classic Nintendo characters or variants of classic Nintendo characters and Bayonetta?
And when is a Nintendo game not mainstream? You know what I mean? That's just like you can't really get.
Honestly, people were saying, "See, it's because they're not real gamers." But in my mind, I'm thinking, no, that has nothing to do with it. Because even people who have never touched a video game know who Samus is. They know who Bayonetta is, because Bayonetta is the title of her own game. They know who these characters are. They're just willfully ignorant to prove a point. So they're going to pretend they don't know who they are just to say, oh, well, see, they don't have any characters. And it's like, no, they do. In fact, they have so many that instead of using Peach and like Daisy and like the forefront characters like Zelda and all them, they're using like more background characters just to promote them more, and you're complaining about this just because you need a reason to complain.
So
the article where they complain about they talk the joy angels from Bayonetta and claim that Nintendo somehow has a hand in perpetuating this. But the joy angels were introduced in the first game, and that was before they have had anything to do with Nintendo.
And then they had an image of one of the characters from Bayonetta, and they were saying, look how sexualized Bayonetta is. But the image wasn't of Bayonetta; it was of a.
That's the Joy.
Yeah, Joy.
The Joy Angels.
Angel, yeah. So
that whole thing,
sort of an incidental NPC character in the game or something.
Yeah, the Joy Angels are enemies.
Exactly. So it's not a character in any way of the series. Really. It's an incidental. They are. They're retarded, aren't they? They absolutely.
The whole thing with the Joy Angels, something I really want to bring up, because I'm a big fan of Bayonetta, also of the game, but all the enemies are based off more or less sort of biblical monstrosities and things from the Bible. All of them are biblical related, so they have historical context. So to say that the Joy Angels are, potentially exploiting women, well, yeah, they probably are. So what? Fucking what? You're sent there to kill them and get rid of them. They're obviously monsters. They're from the Bible. You're getting rid of them. What's wrong?
It seems like their favorite thing to do when they don't have anything to complain about a game is they'll take the villain of the game and say, well, their actions are terrible. And you're like, yeah, they are terrible because they're the bad guy and they do bad things. That's the point.
It's like the Far Cry 4 fucking poster all over again. You guys remember that? The promotional poster where...
Closer to the topic would be probably what kinds of stories would they prefer, where somehow no one ever does anything bad ever. The worst thing that the villain does is say something slightly hurtful.
They want the Sims where they can be the villain.
Basically, their idea of a video game is you're standing in the room, someone walks into the room and goes, I'm not a feminist. You punch them in the face and you win. That's their idea.
Isn't that
And
the
then
plot to Gone Home or something?
could be it. Yeah.
Probably.
That would
Oh,
work as a game, though. It would be lovely to make a feminist parody game where you gave them everything they could possibly want, where it was supreme wish fulfillment. You know, beating up men, killing hordes of men with machine guns, castrating men, the whole 9 yards, and like.
there is a game like that, isn't there? It was like a side-scrolling shoot 'em up where it's just you play as a woman shooting a bunch of men. I remember the first level is you're on a construction site and you get like whistled and catcalled by a bunch of construction workers, so you go and like massacre them all. I'm pretty sure that is an actual game.
Yes, that
This is
exists.
the internet. Oh, magnificent.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is a thing. I saw it around it somewhere. I can't remember the name of it though. As far as I know, it didn't do very well. To the
Yeah,
point where
it died
it
down.
was,
It died down its hype very quickly.
So yeah. Anyone have anything else to say on this whole Nintendo bullshit? No. Okay.
I just want to point out that this is on this entire list. This one has stuck around the longest, like in terms of people still consistently talking about it, because that's just how stupid it is.
Yeah.
The next thing is more a general PSA I want to put out there that maybe people should look into. If someone can verify this, and if so, get on it. It'd be great. Boogie from YouTube, he's pretty neutral on Gamergate and whatnot. Apparently, he has a Steam curators list in which he's promoting Dark Souls 2, I believe it is. And he was paid on his YouTube channel to play it, and there's no disclosure on his Steam curators list that he's been paid to play it, and that's something that someone else who knows what they're doing should probably look into, confirm, and maybe we need to talk to Boogie about putting some disclosure on his Steam curators list. Yeah. Other than that, a topic that was brought up briefly earlier, but I'll bring it up again in case there's anything else that needs to be talked about, which is the Lionhead Studios putting up the Frothy Tavern or something?
Yeah, Frothy Jugs.
The Frothy Jugs, that was it. They put up some concept art from Fable 2 in order to celebrate #National Cleavage Day. And in the picture it included a woman holding 2 fairly large jugs of mead, and the name of the bar was Frothy Jugs. That's the pun. But turns out the Tone Police Parade decided to jump on top of it and say how horrible and misogynist it was, and it was shit like this that was keeping women out of gaming, and the usual.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem was not the woman, but the fact that she was bringing people beer.
Really?
Probably.
The
They
title
weren't going to say
of the picture was Foaming Jugs.
foaming jugs, that was it. I mean, they weren't going to complain. They probably should have. That would have been a better thing to complain about. To say, look, you're portraying that woman in a servile role, serving men in a bar. And that's all video games like yours do. You just reinforce old stereotypes. They kind of didn't go for that. They just kind of go, oh, terrible breasts. And so they did look like a bunch of old prudes from some old Scottish Calvinist village. They certainly didn't look very sex positive or very progressive. Yeah, it was awful, wasn't it? Because they did have a good old bully at him. And I looked at some of the people who were leading it, and one of them was a Polygon writer, the other was a self-described feminist and game dev. And apparently one of the magazines has said something about it.
Brianna Wu said something about it.
Mm.
That was the funniest part because everyone immediately jumped on, but I thought you were a sex-positive feminist. And except in this one situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But
beer.
later, Running with Scissors, the development team behind Postal, reposted the image saying Happy National Cleavage Day, just kind of out of spite. And they haven't taken it down because they said, yes, it says, yes, we seriously just did this, and you know what, it's totally fine. And so they've gotten a lot of support out of that since Lionhead took theirs down.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it was a great protest because it got a lot of people onto Twitter, and the hashtag went really well, went really high as a result of that.
It went viral in the UK, didn't it?
Yeah, totally did in the UK. Yeah, everyone was because we like that kind of thing, you know. Yeah, big breast protests and that kind of thing. Because it wasn't. It was about cleavage. You know, if it had just been about breasts, then probably we wouldn't have been that interested because we would have all known what we would get there. Just like frowning feminists with their breasts out with like rude words written on them, which is like
Written on the pictures or written on the breasts?
oh, always on the breasts. You know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to clarify first so that, you know, just in case I can Photoshop the words off, you know.
Yeah. Yes. It's good fun and it was cheeky but not too lewd.
I'd just like to point out two things for listeners with regards to the Lionhead stuff. After they put up that picture and they got a bit of backlash, they put up another picture of a man showing his bare arse with a little heart shape on it. So, you know, they were trying to
Be inclusive.
yeah, they were trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Also,
It was interpreted as they were being cute.
yeah. And also, just in general for the National Cleavage Day, those of you who say, well, there's no fucking National Cleavage Day for men. No, but there's National Bulge Day. So, if you girls, any gals want to see some man meat, check out hashtag National Bulge Day.
Is that a real thing then? Because I thought it was just someone joking. They all seem to come from the same Twitter account, and I thought.
Well, I've looked at it, and there's trust me, there's a lot of man meat there.
Is there?
Even with National Cleavage Day, Oliver Campbell started a little campaign for a bunch of men on his page. So they were all posting themselves shirtless and saying, "Look, I have cleavage too. Not really, but cleavage." And I thought that was really funny.
Oh man, I should have joined in on that. I actually do have cleavage. Damn it! God damn, I should have gone in on that.
Excellent. So we've just fully pawned up Twitter really over the last couple of days. Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love porn?
So they can't take this away from us, can they? That's an achievement.
You can take our games, but you'll never take our porn.
Yeah. Another victory for common sense.
We draw the line here.
Yeah. Yep. Who said Gamergate was dead?
Ugh.
So,
we've been called
but
dead.
I love that protest. It was a lot of fun.
yes, we've died so often now. It's hard to count. But
We're basically zombies.
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah, moving on. The next topic I have here is a bit of a big one. The ESA ruled in favor of video games against real-life sexism, the Ellen Pao stuff. I don't know much about it, so I'm going to pass the mic on
What are
to
you
you.
talking about?
Yeah, I was going to say you've got two stories going there.
Yeah, that was like there was a video that was describing a whole bunch of cases about video games.
Have I put two stories in the same thing?
The Ellen Pao thing was she was suing for workplace discrimination.
I've put two stories in the same bullet point. Never mind. We'll cover Ellen Pao. We'll cover Ellen Pao. I'm such a professional. We'll cover
Why
Ellen
don't we
Pao.
just do the made-up story? That'd be interesting.
No, the ESA thing that was real. That
Yeah.
there was a court case recently with with regards to the ESA. Basically, they looked. There was some sort of court case stating that video games were sexist and should be regulated more harshly because of potential sexist content. And the ESA basically ruled that was bullshit. The reason I handed the mic on to you guys is because I didn't know how Ellen Pao was related, and I thought you guys did. Never mind.
Well, Ellen Pao is Reddit, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes, she's
She
Reddit.
worked for Reddit, and she's claiming that she was sexually discriminated against by people who work for Reddit. Yeah, right. So yeah,
I thought. Wait a minute. Wasn't she? Didn't she claim to be discriminated by Kleiner Perkins?
right. Is that a woman?
That sounds like
As a company.
Oh, right.
Oh.
It's in finance. And,
Is it definitely a business or is it just business kin? Because I can never tell the difference.
what do you mean, business kin or business?
As in, I was just making a Tumblr joke.
Yeah.
Business kin. Like,
No, it's definitely
like
business.
women's
It's definitely
Not.
a business.
Oh well,
But, so yeah,
yeah. She lost anyway, so. Phew.
There's a woman who's defending her very adamantly that said, well, she only lost because there was only one black and one Latino person on the jury, and the rest were white and Asian. But Ellen Pao is Asian, so I don't really know where that argument makes any type of sense.
from the pictures I've seen of her, she's white as well, isn't she?
No, she's
Ellen Pao?
Asian.
She might be half, but I think that she's Asian, that she's more
Looks
Asian than
very,
she's white.
very Asian.
Oh, well
Yeah.
then she should have had the jury in her pocket then. Like, if
The thing is,
majority Asians.
probably the evidence and testimonies just were against her case so strongly that she actually lost despite being a woman. So now all sorts of outlets are making articles decrying how Ellen Powell's case proves that there is sexism. That the Silicon Valley is an old boys' club, and that women are kept out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's the way it'll be spun.
It's working really well.
Ellen Powell lost 8 figures of money due to losing that case.
Damn. Okay. It's a lot of money.
Yes. That was these are 16 million she would have had if she'd won.
Mm.
And
But they are spinning it really well, because even like non-biased articles, like in the New York Times, there's a definite lean towards, well, she might have lost the court case, but everybody outside of that is still supporting her, and it's kind of, you can kind of see it that way. I think mostly people don't know about it. It's not really as well known a case as I think a lot of people think it is. But if she gets it out enough, and if there isn't any like backlash, like if people aren't pointing out, no, you lost the case because it was a bad case and there wasn't actually anything going on and you weren't able to prove anything. And if there aren't people doing that, then she could get her story out and get people to believe her side of the story only and get the public backlash that way. And that can often be a lot worse than losing a court case.
Oh yeah, her and her Asian mates could burn down a town. You know, after Ferguson, anything can happen. And, you know, all of her rich mates from San Francisco, they'll go on the rampage.
I don't think they'd risk singeing their multicolored hair. Hair dye's flammable, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And they're not going to mess up their night.
Thing is, the question now is how does that play out to her role as a CEO on Reddit? Because that's why Gamergate has an interest in this.
That
Because
would
she's the CEO of Reddit, and she has proven to heavily to give directions. She's given directions to shut down any talk about this case on any on any subreddit. Everything was shut down when that case was happening.
more mass censorship.
Yeah.
So she is giving directions to those, and that is important because Xavier, as you see with Xavier Mendel and the stuff he leaks when he gets pissed off. The Reddit mods, apart from Ellen Powell's court case, also ask the mods from Kotaku in Action to censor a lot of very relevant threads on Kotaku in Action.
The best thing we could actually do, since this is involving a court case, it's going to cost her a lot of money, is actually look into how Reddit works as far as shareholders, because consumers can get people removed from business positions, but it's much harder, especially with Reddit, which isn't like something you can buy or necessarily boycott very easily, because you're never going to get everybody off of Reddit. But if you go to shareholders and point out this is what she's doing and it's bad for the entire company and it's going to cost you money in the long run, they actually have a lot more power to remove executive officers from their position. But I don't know how Reddit stocks work, or even if they have stocks, but they're so huge, I'd assume they do.
Even if it's sort of company-owned ones, it's probably all owned by the moderators. Maybe that's what they refer to as hot pockets.
I never. Yes, the thing is the money is another thing that I think the shareholders, the relevant ones, know damn well about Ellen Powell, because especially due to this court case, because in this court case, she picked a fight that was so strongly stacked against her that she lost.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if this is something serious, if as the shareholder you have to worry that she might make similarly stupid decisions in the future, that will affect the company, and hence the stocks that you own.
Perfect. Yeah. That's the good narrative there, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm. Be interesting to see where that ends up. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Because for her to lose, the odds really must have stood very strongly against her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it is a very valid criticism of her, isn't it? Really, in business terms, and we should use that a lot more in the future.
Yes, something definitely we need to jump on. Anyone have anything else to say on Ellen Powell before we move on?
I realized afterwards that the Ellen Powell thing is what they were talking about in the USA Today article where they mentioned Gamergate specifically.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah. I just happened to be looking at the article. I was like, wait a minute, this is the same article talking about the same stuff.
Yeah,
Weird. Some more
straight into
compilation.
yeah, I was just about to say USA Today has reported on the sexism in Silicon Valley and lists us as a source of said sexism as per usual.
That's something that just completely confuses me, because A, what do we have to do with Silicon Valley? 2, B, yes, again, what does it have to do with Silicon? Does the only way in which I could imagine Gamergate would be related it would be an alternate universe where Gamergate was actually run by industry people in the Silicon Valley, specifically with the intention and goal to keep women out of the Silicon Valley.
Hmm.
The
But if
only
that were the
impression I'm getting
case,
is that nobody likes the Bay Area anymore. Like we all make fun of the SJWs for all having the San Francisco ideology and the San Francisco mentality, but now they're making fun of it because it's sexist. And it's like it's just a city, a very large segment. But essentially, yeah, they bring it up, and since it's USA Today, people are a little bit more concerned about it because it is a bigger website, and people are sending in, because the assumption is just with whenever a major news site does it, it's that they've read the gaming journals and assume everything they say is right, because why not? They're the gaming journals, they would know that area, and then they take their definitions and stick it on there without fact checking or, of course, talking to anybody from Gamergate. So there are people trying to send emails to USA Today correcting it, but this just came out like today, so we haven't seen any response from it yet.
Plus, it is pretty clear that the connections between these news organisations, say Polygon and all of the mainstream media, are similar to what happens with the Game Journo Pros list. You know, there will be people at higher levels of Polygon and stuff, like Kachera and stuff, who are, and maybe Lee Alexander, who are actually have professional channels to those media organisations, long-standing ones as part of their jobs. So they are going to run the same narrative. Like, clearly the narrative from the mainstream media has come down into our neck of the woods, and when it goes back up, it's still coloured with their lens all the way. In fact, it gets worse when it hits the MSN than it does really when it's in gaming media, because the gaming media is at least preposterous. When it gets to the mainstream media, it's been properly polished up and soundbited and packaged.
And that
There, it's
defies
more
the
believable.
argument a lot of people have that, it's just gaming media, it's not important. But no, it's still journalism, and it still has an effect on society and how we buy things and how the mainstream media sees gaming and the gaming community, because they see it through the lens of gaming journals. And if gaming journals are putting out things like gamers are dead and calling groups of gamers misogynists and terrorists, then that's what the mainstream is going to see. And that means that there's definitely a big effect there. It's not wholly unimportant. It's not something that we shouldn't care about, because there is an effect there. And
It's something I
at the
wish
end of the
they
day,
would
you're
get a bit
talking.
more about.
at the end of the day, you're talking about demonizing an entire culture. If it was any other culture, people would find it a bigger deal. If we started demonizing and saying that everyone who ever watches and enjoys football is a rapist, if that was the story that the media was putting out constantly again and again and again, people would have a bigger deal. People would make a bigger deal about it.
Oh, the NFL would sue him.
Well, yeah. The only problem is we don't have an NFL equivalent. We just have us, and we can send emails and irritate people with facts and logic. Okay. I think the last proper topic I have, although there's more, there's one other thing as well as this. The last topic I have is the Honeydew and Yogscast stuff.
Ah.
Yes. So TB, Total Biscuit, was basically doing what he does best, pointing out logic and calling out people's bullshit. And Honeydew from the Yogscast called him a crying piss baby, I believe was the exact quote.
Oh, right, this one. Yeah, crying piss baby. Babby.
Yes.
Yeah.
And TB was very upset by that and basically called the Yogscast out for, I believe, forgetting people as soon as they got big, forgetting their old friends as soon as they got big, and a bunch of other stuff. Because the Yogscast actually went on an early version of the co-optional podcast, the TGS podcast, with Total Biscuit a few years ago now. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Simon was on one. He certainly was. I remember it. I think Lewis has been on them occasionally, and other people from.
I don't think Lewis has been on one. I know that they're planning to get whatchamacallit on Dodger's new boyfriend. Yeah,
Right.
on.
Really?
And
Sips and Dodger are seeing each other, are they?
As far as I'm aware.
Oh, let's talk about that. No, yeah. Oh, no, excellent. How sweet. Well, I tell you, there's more there's more that broke this morning to this stuff about the Yogscast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Reddit were digging away and having a look at some of their curators list on Steam, and they noticed that a lot of the games that they recommend, only 5 of the game lists that they recommend are not stuff that they've been paid to promote on their channel. And they're also selling it in their own shop, which I think links Steam, and they get about 5% on every game sold, sort of by third-party transactions.
Oh God, that's dodgy as fuck.
Oh, yes.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Honeydew.
Yeah.
Gee, they're getting paid to promote it and paid to sell it, and they're not disclosing any of that. Holy shit. Okay.
They might have disclosed.
No, it's not just
videos.
It's not just that it's a paid. It's not just that they get paid to promote it. It's not that company said them, okay, here's one set of money. Now go promote it. They get a cut from every sale. They get a cut from every sale.
That's fucking insane, dude. Holy shit. I didn't even realize it was that
5%.
bad. Holy crap.
Yeah, 5% is quite a chunk.
The percent doesn't matter. The amount doesn't matter. The fact is they're getting money from it. That's the problem. The amount doesn't matter. But I didn't even realize that. Holy crap. Yeah, that's something. Okay, people jump on that shit now.
Yeah, the pattern is pretty obvious at this point. Whenever someone is also a goon, there is always something dodgy or something shady that they do too.
Yeah.
It's always the goons that do that.
Yeah.
I always think back like a couple of years ago when I was like, the goons wanted a mate of mine ended up in the goons and wanted me to come with, and I was like, no. I've always been happy with that decision, apparently, because the more shit comes out about them, the more I'm like, you know what, I made the right choice that day.
True enough.
It's always the goons with this stuff, because the Yogscast just so happen to be goons as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're goons.
And as soon as they had that promotion, as soon as they got big, they started being sock jussy as well.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? They've always been. I think their sock Jussie stuff a bit. I thought it was a bit tongue in cheek because you get those funny incidents like they'd be building a roof or something. What was it? Yeah, they were building. Yeah, Lewis and they were all building a roof on a house. Yeah, and so Lewis turns around to Duncan and says, "Right, I need you to get a load of slopes and put this roof together." And then Honeydew pops on with like, "Lewis, that's incredibly racist." Or whatever, and like, because he said the word slopes, he said like, "Go and find some Chinese people and build this roof." And so I thought that was ironic, but perhaps he did half mean it.
Potentially, he did half mean it in a sort of, oh, look out, they might actually think you're, you might actually be saying racist stuff. But yeah.
I'll tell you, there's another thing as well. I found a video earlier today that I'd seen before, where someone who works for Digra was giving a lecture, and she starts talking about the Yogscast, and they've got pictures of her in the first slides and that kind of thing. And she's describing work she did with the Yogscast and with Minecraft, using the game as a learning tool and this kind of stuff. So if you think they might have, they might have been with Digra right from ages ago. She mentioned the date 2010. So they might have been working with Digra ever since then, because they stayed just well away and absolutely silent on Gamergate, totally, except for the first opportunity when they get to speak. And Simon comes out sounding like any of the SJWs that have been, you get this classic schizophrenic SJW reaction. 1 minute, I love you, the next, you must die in a fire.
Yep, that's how that works.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit. Wait. The Yogscast has been in with the Digra from the start. And
well, I'll show you the video.
I didn't know that. Do you have a link on it?
Yeah, I've got a link. It's on my Twitter, on my wall. Ian Davis
it always comes
fans, but I'll give you the actual link. I'll find it for you.
It always comes back to 2010, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sekita is right.
If you chuck the link up, I'll put out the name of the video so that people can look it up and have a listen and have a look for themselves.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the people listening would be very interested to see this as well. If that's true, that's quite the thing. Quite the thing indeed.
Well, I know Roguestar saw it because I posted it in response to him posting his initial allegations earlier today.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I've already been on a spamming Twitter frenzy today, so I can no longer find stuff for anything on my wall.
Got a bit heated in the Twitter space.
Oh, doesn't it though? When I first got on here, I thought, no, I'm not going to just get suckered into it. I'm just going to do a bit of retweeting and this and that. But you quickly get into these arguments with people, and you don't even kind of realise it. You'll say something, and a load of scumbags will appear, and.
Oh no, you never saw me during my Sarah Butts days. Oh crap, my Sarah Butts days. Those were some dark days indeed.
Why did you let him sucker you into all these flame wars anyway?
I just look. It's like my crack cocaine. It's like my crack cocaine. Okay, I can't get enough of it. I know I shouldn't, and I've stopped now. But it felt good though.
I'll tell you what. I just went to my wall to find that link, and I see someone's posted a link from Twitter here saying Sarah Nyberg. So Callan Elliott's just had some epic lulls with an SJW, Sarah Butts. Well done, Callan. Excellent work. Keep it up.
The thing is,
she's about. Sorry.
Yeah. Thing is with Butts is just forget about Butts because this is a huge rabbit hole. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Just if you want to look it up, look up FF Shrine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all we can give there.
Yeah.
We don't want to give Butts more traffic than we need to.
And that's the thing with Butts. Nobody argues with Butts because they think that they're going to accomplish something or change anybody's mind. They do it because there's just something satisfying about seeing someone so much stupider than you think that they're right and knowing the entire time. It's like, nope, you're just dumb. There's something just satisfying about it. I understand completely about the crack thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'll happily send you guys a screen grab of one of Butt's tweets, and I'll send it you specifically because no matter how many times I've sent it to her, she refuses to respond. So if she ever gets on at you, she ever yells at you, send her this picture, which is just a quote of one of her own tweets. Just send it back to her, and she will stop responding to you. And if you ever want out, I'll give you the out. And it's basically a tweet from her saying that she endorses doxing.
Yes.
And she,
Doxing can be used for good, exposing people and sending threats.
yes.
That's basically.
Yes. That's the tweet in question. And she refuses to respond to that because I'm just like, you support doxing, so you can't say shit. Alright, I've just gotten the video up now. For those of you who are watching, who want to have a look at it yourself, it's called The State of Gaming Studies Digra Update 2014. You should find it if you just search for that.
The link's in the room, but you could maybe put it in the low bar later or something.
Well, yeah. I actually, can I put it in there now? I wonder. Or actually, I can just put it on the in the comments. There we go. Boom.
Oh, excellent. Usually I wasn't aware.
Oh.
You probably can't post in
apparently-
the comments.
Ian, apparently you commented on my video. It's been marked as spam. I don't know if I can trust you. Were you
No, I
spamming?
know.
Were you spamming?
I wasn't sure I'd actually posted that. I tried to put the link in, but I didn't press the button in the end. I thought, it's a link. There we go.
It's a link. That's why.
Yeah.
You can't do
It's
it
a
in the
link to
chat.
another YouTube. It won't sort of go in the chat or whatever. You could put it in the low bar, but you wouldn't. Oh no! I shared this on Google Plus. That's probably what it's marking as spam. Why it puts it up there? Because all I'm doing is pressing the share button. Why it feels the need to post it there? I mean, and then mark that as spam.
I don't know, but yeah, I've approved it, so it should be good now if you refresh.
Cool.
So yeah, that's the stuff with Diagram. Now the last thing, unless anyone else has anything left to say on the Ogscast. No?
No.
Not really.
Okay. The last thing I have is just, it was a question that was levied at me the other day, and it really made me stop and think. And I'd like to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on it, and also just something for listeners to sort of try and figure out themselves is, when we talk about objectivity and we talk about objective reviews, everyone seems to have their own definition of what an objective review is. Basically, I'm going to go and just open this up for discussion. What do you guys think counts as objectivity?
Because I just had a follower who has nothing to do with Gamergate. He's one of my followers that I just like to talk to. Was asking this exact same question today about how if you can objectively analyze objectivity.
Well, it's pretty easy to actually. Because
That's so meta. Can we objectively be objective?
the thing is, objectivity is pretty easy to summarize. It is professional distance. You distance yourself from the subject you're talking about, so that if you write something about, if you describe it, if someone else who has a completely different worldview from you, but describes it just as objectively as you, he will describe it exactly the same as you.
Okay. So
Because you're not supposed to describe your viewpoint, you're supposed to describe the object at hand.
So it's sort of you're describing the object. You're putting a little bit of your own opinion in, but with regards to things that can be measurably quantifiable, such as game.
Well, yeah,
Better
you're going to be
than
stuck.
your
That's going to
opinion.
happen, whatever, isn't it? Because of just the nature of personal subjective experience.
You can add your opinion somewhere, but it shouldn't influence what you write itself.
What I was referring to is like I don't know, if I was to say the gunplay in Call of Duty feels sluggish. I mean, it's something that can be quantified. You can say that, well, you turn this % slower than the last one, and that's why it feels sluggish. But it's still my own opinion that it feels sluggish. You see,
Yeah.
it's sort of a mixture of opinion and fact.
Yeah, but
When
that leads back to somebody else would have a similar opinion to that. Like if you had 10 people, you would probably get that they'd all say, this feels sluggish. And over a couple of reviews, you're going to see that. Think, well, then this probably does feel sluggish in the real world, and even I would find it sluggish. I mean,
Mm.
that's the sort of,
it can be hard when you're using objectivity to analyze like something that's artistic, like a game or a film or something like that, because even something that to almost everybody on Earth is considered bad or considered a cliche or considered broken, there's might be one or two people who still like, because there might be one or two people who that doesn't feel sluggish to them, but they just naturally like a slower movement, like they just prefer that, and so there's always a little bit of opinion in it. It's more, can you see when it's an opinion, and can you see when it's actually like just a factual, because there are also like times when it's like, well, there's something factually wrong with the game, there's something actually broken. Like if you're talking about the newest Assassin's Creed and you're like, no, this isn't any objectivity, those things aren't meant to be that way, obviously. But for the most part, when you're reviewing something, though, it is a lot of opinion, and it's more you try to do it from an opinion of how most people are going to think and what people are expecting, than from an opinion of this is what I like and that's all I'm going to talk about.
I disagree. I absolutely disagree.
Okay.
You can be, just because a lot of people aren't being objective, being more objective than they currently are, doesn't mean they can't. For instance, with that one particular example that you just brought up, with the controls being sluggish, you can say the controls are sluggish, but you can also describe what it is. You can say, for instance, when I turn the joystick to the right, it takes a while for it to start turning.
Okay. So you'd be talking more about if you feel a certain thing, you have a certain opinion about it, that they quantify it with actual factual things that can be measured. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because allowing subjectivity to go unmitigated is a very dangerous alley to go around, and can very quickly lead to very big problems that we're even seeing now. For instance, if we allow journalists to be subjective, to say, well, objectivity isn't that important, then at some point judges are going to think objectivity is not going to be that important, and just argue along the fields.
Here's an odd model though. What if you come across a game as a reviewer, and you notice that like it's a role-playing game, lots of fighting and all that business and hacking dragons, and then you notice, hang on, all the characters and all my party, we're all women, and all the NPCs in the town and that, they're all men. In fact, like around this whole town, everywhere I just see like there's a queen of the town, all her ministers are women. Well, there's been some serious gender reversal here. What's this about? No, should you just ignore that and say it's an RPG, or how would you deal with that? And without saying,
well, it would affect your judgment as to whether it is fantasy or not, because you can't pass it off as historical or low fantasy if that's what they're going to put in.
Yeah, I suppose that would be the way to look at it. Yeah, so that this is.
No one is preventing people from doing that, but the thing is that is not inherently the problem. The problem is when people do that and then pass it off as history or low fantasy.
Ah, yeah.
That has more of a revisionist character to it.
Well, it's like the game dev who was making a game set in Europe, medieval Europe, and his game had no. No. It was some strategy game or something.
Daniel Favreau, and it was Kingdom Come, was it called?
It was something like that, and it was him that was like, there's no black characters in the game, and a man in black basically attacked him for it, and he went, but in the historical context, there were no black characters, there were no black people around at that time.
What was it supposed to be again? 15th century Bohemia.
Yeah.
Bohemia, yes.
There's just all these hippies.
Hippies in Bohemia, in 15th century Bohemia.
Yeah, just joss sticks and swaggering around in flares. Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah, no black people, just hippies, and it would have ruined it. I stand with Daniel Favreau there. No, but seriously, yeah, it was a medieval game, and they were saying, why are there no black people? And the wonderful, he took a picture of, I think, is it Martin Lawrence, the guy's name or something, a black comedian guy
Yes.
in one of these medieval films where a black guy goes back in time to the court of King Arthur or whatever, and he's standing there looking all like he's about to get killed, and there's all these knights in armor and medieval types standing
Because,
around looking, what the fuck?
It's from a very particular film, which is just a very, very silly and partially even quite trashy film, actually. But the thing is, that particular film makes fun of exactly that. You know, he lands as in ancient Britain as a black guy, and everyone is confused, and he has to spend this infinite amount of time constructing this long story of him having come to France and come to Britain from France.
Yeah. Where people just, and so
Because
yeah,
there are no blacks in that sort of setting. Not if you're trying to make it realistic.
Well, there were no black people in England until we started colonializing different places and brought them over as slaves, because Britain is just a great country like that.
Not always slaves, though.
well,
Well,
let's
in
face
the
it,
early days it was slavery.
we didn't even know Africa really existed then. We probably knew a bit of the Mediterranean shore and that kind of thing, but in the medieval
Well,
period,
no, we would have brought them over. We would have brought them over from Spain, like when the Spanish colonialized all of that. We would have brought them over and bought them from Spain. I'm pretty sure. Saying that, I'm not a history professional. I am probably horrifically wrong, so feel free to correct me.
Well, I know we knew at
20
least about
times.
Egypt and North Africa because the Greeks communicated with them, and that was way before that game took place. So we at least had a record. We knew that such a thing existed, but
Yeah.
kind of in the same way we think aliens exist.
Yep.
So basically, what we're saying is black people are aliens.
No, we're just saying that, no, we're just saying that they're not real. Like Tim Schafer, he was right. You know, it's just a myth. It's just a social construct.
What? Wait, what? That
Sock
black people are
puppets.
social-
The
Oh,
blacks don't exist. It's just sock puppets.
Like sock puppets? Is it that sock puppets are a social construct, or are women and black people a social construct?
no,
Black
socks
people.
don't exist.
Socks are a social construct because you knit.
So socks don't exist, guys. They're a figment of your imagination.
Socks don't exist either.
Socks-
Yeah.
Socks don't
My
exist.
feet are so cold.
I wish I had something to put on my feet before I put my shoes on. God, it's so uncomfortable.
The mysteries of science. Yeah. We shall never know.
We
What it
shall
will be
never
like.
know.
We shall never.
What do you guys think about objectivity when it comes to ideologies? I know, Mazia, you've your opinion's going to be keep it out altogether. But do either of you guys have dissenting opinions at all on that sort of front?
On the terms of... Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, I missed. No. Well, on the terms of ideology in games, or specifically in journalism at all.
Well, like
Which,
in writing your opinion based on your ideology into a review, if your website is specifically aimed at that demographic, for example. I mean, a good
if
example
you're going to
is
disclose that, that's fine. Really.
Okay.
If you're billing yourself as a progressive view of gaming, I would actually read that for, I wouldn't feel I had to blacklist that it was a problem, because it's being quite honest about it and stuff. I'd kind of love to read that to get my view of the other side from people who are at least being honest, but it doesn't work like that.
I basically think the same way, that I don't really necessarily mind if someone is in a situation where they might have a bias, as long as they're open about it, because they could still have insights to offer about it. They could have even more valuable insights just because they're closer to the project that might make for a more interesting review. But they have to be open about it, because then I know I can go in with the expectation of where they're coming from, and at that point it's no problem to me. I think and that's just in terms of if they're close to it. If they just have if they have an opinion about the game, I don't mind that either. I don't mind people having emotions or being passionate about art form that they're reviewing or talking about. I just want them to be upfront about it. so I know what I'm getting myself into, and that I'm not reading it as something that's just a flat review of what's going on.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess if anyone asks what we mean by an objective review, just link into this discussion. No, I was just because we pretty much all agree. I was just curious as to whether there was anything big that I would disagree with you guys with, but no, pretty much all the same. Lastly but not leastly, I guess the last question I have is, and I'm just going to assume all you guys are against this, numerical scores in reviews, yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Not sure.
Not
Not
sure?
sure, really.
I can see why they're useful, but
Okay.
I think that they need to be seriously. I don't think that a game should have just one flat score, like 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. I think that it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
In what way do you think they would be useful? Just for like if you want a quick sort of summary of it, or?
Well, because there's some people who, even when they read a review, they still, like, they just can't put together in their head, it's like, but is it a good game, is it a bad game? Because some people, they just like things really simple, and I don't necessarily discredit them for that. I think that's how most people are, is they like things simple, and a numerical review kind of gives that, but it's hard to judge all games, because it's such a broad concept, and they're all very different and unique and diverse. To judge them all on the same exact scale, it's like you have a game that's 7 out of 10, and then another game that's 7 out of 10. But one is like a real-time strategy, and the other is a first-person shooter. Those are two entirely different games, both the same score. But that doesn't mean that they're both equally enjoyable necessarily. Like, I'll give an indie game a 7 out of 10, and it won't be the best game ever, but for one person making it, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because it's one person making it. And they put a lot of work into it. They have less resources. There's less going into it, and yet they still did a good job. But if a AAA developer made the same quality game, I'd give that like a 4 out of 10 because they have no excuse. They have resources, and they have the ability to put out a much better game, and they still didn't. So there's just you can't judge them all on the same scale like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure really whether scores yay or nay. I can understand why people are gradually now tending towards nay because what we're having right now is just game bloggers masking as journalists and then writing reviews about full-blown games with story, game mechanics, characters, unlockables. It has the full package, but instead of writing a review about everything of that game, they just pick some random tangent from some cutscene and then spend the rest second half of the review bitching about objectification and then giving it a 3 out of 10 because of that tangent. And that's currently what we're having. Why people are saying nay to review scores. But if we managed if at some point in time people could make some sort of international index or some sort or international preemptively given system according to which certain games can be scored, then I would see no problem with scores if they act within that system.
I think that the best improvement you could possibly give it is instead of having one score if a game has multiple scores, because even on top of that, there's some people who they just don't care about the story. So if a reviewer goes in and they talk only about the story, and that the story is what sets the average, it either gets really high or really low, then that person would know, okay, well, you gave it a 7 out of 10, but it's only because you gave the story a 10 out of 10. But I don't care about the story, I care about all these other aspects.
So, like, maybe have one for story, one for world building, one for mechanics, that so on and so forth? Okay.
And then you either have, like, a weighted average or you'd add them all up. And it'd have to be a weighted average because I wrote a game review for Ori and the Lost Forest, and I used that because I wanted to test it out. And what I found out is you can't necessarily take a regular average because for some games there are certain aspects that are more important than others. So like the mechanics in Ori are it's just a Metroidvania. There's nothing really special. They work just fine, but there's nothing special about it. But the story and the art is so fantastic that when I take an average review, that plays out more important than the mechanics. Because the mechanics are just, they're there. You get around with them. They work just fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but there's nothing special about them either. And something like that, and it becomes more complicated, but it's still easy for the consumers to understand. And I think that's what game reviewers lack, is they make something that's simple for them to understand and simple for the consumers, but the solution is something that's more complicated for you to come up with. But once you get it out there, a consumer's going to see it and go, oh, okay, I get it. That makes sense.
Okay. I can definitely see that being a reasonable way of doing things. Well, Ian, what do you think of a system like that?
Yeah, well, I say nay because of a couple of reasons. I think a review should be written well enough for it to be left up to the reader to give their own score out of 10, as it were, according to what they like in games. You know, I think it should be descriptive enough for them to be able to say, oh, well, that's the kind of game I don't like. I can't be asked with that, even if I really like the game. You know what I mean? And also, I think because the reader can be absolutely trusted to do that for themselves, it gets rid of the problem of the fact that nobody else can be trusted with scores. Because the second we've started doing that, it's given people a way to go away and collate these scores about games overall and say, look, here are umpteen reviews and their collated scores. So this must surely be an even more truthful representation of what this game's about. And nobody anywhere has read the game review, as it were. The reader hasn't read that game review. They've seen the aggregated score. The people who put the score together haven't seen it completely. Only the people who've written the bloody reviews in the first place. And then, of course, this has let journalists have so much power over the gaming industry and the gamers. And so I think, all told, getting rid of these scores would be a massive blow for us in terms of being able to prevent future collusive, creepy journalist groups getting together and trashing games.
So you're sort of you're against it from a sort of Metacritic point of view, like the idea of Metacritic and the sort of aggregation of scores is damaging.
Yeah, or even, and also in the effect of Polygon type things, where there's a number of companies that might review this game and all give it a panned review.
Okay.
With their scores and that kind of thing, because that will end up eventually on Metacritic. It's maybe the people under Metacritic that have their thing in. If they get all co-opted, it gives a lot of power to people who don't deserve it. It's too easy to be screwed over. Is how I feel.
Okay.
To the credit of Metacritic, they do also have user reviews, and I think a lot of people, I know that when I go on Metacritic, I pay a lot more attention to the user reviews than to the journalist reviews, just because, and I do the same thing with film, because when people go in to watch a movie, they're going in to enjoy themselves, and they aren't necessarily psychoanalyzing the film and coming out with, some really pretentious review like film reviewers are going to do. So their reviews tend to reflect a lot more on whether or not I enjoy the movie. Even if it's not an intelligent movie, I'm still going to enjoy it because if the user reviews are high, than if just the critic reviews are high. And games tend to be a lot of the same thing, though they're less pretentious as much as they just are harping on the SJW stuff all the time.
Well, there's two things there. One is, of course, again, objectivity. It's a lot of the problem that we have right now with scores is journalists using the subjectivity as the idea of subjectivity as something inevitable, as an excuse to just completely falsify scores. And that's part of the problem, really. And the other thing was making these sort of independent platforms for scores. That is bound to create complications. That's why I like Steam systems a lot more, where in order to submit a review, you actually have to have bought the game.
Yes.
And it often shows how long you've been playing it as well, so you can think, well, clearly this person does love this game.
Because
500 hours into Eve, I regret nothing.
Because the problem with the way it's done with Metacritic is you can just make it all of sock puppet accounts and just give a game an infinite amount of positive reviews. But then of course the lie is in that you didn't really buy. If you have 1,000 sock puppets making a good review, you didn't really buy the game 1,000 times. But with Steam you would have to do that.
Yes, you would actually have to buy the game a bunch of times for Steam, which would cost a lot of money.
So what that does is, in order to be relevant to the score of the game itself, you have to be equally relevant to the sales. That's why that system is actually the best.
Yeah, it is incredibly truthful for that time.
This conversation on objectivity just reminded me of something, and I don't know why I didn't realize this earlier. On the topic of Jim Sterling not getting the Final Fantasy review code, do you guys remember he did a video, an objective review? It was obviously just taking the piss out of us and saying that we were all basically crying, pissing, whiny babies.
Yeah.
But the game he did the, quote, objective review was a Final Fantasy game.
Oh.
Just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah.
That might impact why he didn't get it.
That's
might
an even
do
better
indeed.
reason, isn't it? We're not going to let you use this as a political tool. We can see you're trying to get us into a fight here, so you're not having any more review code. Thank you very much. I don't blame them at all for that.
It's kind of a lot of the Japanese developers have tried really hard to stay out of it, but the few that have said anything even remotely related, it's always not pro necessarily, but just kind of taking the piss out of anti. Because he's like, I don't know about Gamergate, but you guys are really obnoxious and you need to shut up. And
yeah,
it's probably because of the Galapagos effect. The Japanese are trying to stay out of this as far as they can, but those that are the actual industry have to some certain degree, but just don't know how to go about it really.
Mhm.
Because the current prevailing culture is this are these sock-just journalists, and these sock-just journalists seem to have a severe hostility towards Japanese.
Which is really kind of amusing, but I think it's just because so much that comes out of Japan can be really sexualized, and Japan doesn't care, and really most of us don't care. But they really care for some reason, and it's a culture that they can't criticize the same way they can criticize American or British or European culture, because then they get accused of things like racism. So they just kind of like under the table don't like it, but they never openly criticize it.
Well, that's because of how they handle what demographic a game caters to. Because in the West, what we have is the big games that cater to a predominantly male audience, and then you have sock-just types trying to bully those same companies to make games to cater to them. While in Japan, you have these, what are they called, otome game, or basically the Japanese they just make games that cater to different audiences. They also have dating sims where you're playing like a teenage girl, and there's all these handsome young men courting you, and
and we're copying them because like Hatterfeld Boyfriend was a bit of a hit, and now recently you've got Gayolk Dating Sim coming. So clearly, even the SJWs like some elements of their culture. I mean,
and because the Japanese they don't really try to bully a company into doing what they want. They just make an alternative. Similarly to the final cap.
Yeah.
But again, that's capitalism, and they don't. And as Matt has said from the excerpts of his discussions with fellow feminists, capitalism is something they disapprove of.
It disapproves of a meritocracy because it discriminates against people who can't be arsed doing actual work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everything that I have on topics. That's all the news that's happened over the past week, or the past 2 weeks. I think that's about it, really. I guess shameless shilling, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
So, Ian, where can people find you if they want to hear more of your ramblings?
Yes. Well, they can find me on Twitter, where Ian Davis 0, where you can see very, very concise versions of my ramblings. Or you can go to Facebook and join Gamergate Ultras, which is the group that I run for for I'll read out one of our reviews. Ultras is a bit of a messed up place. It's sort of the Gamergate extremists and rejects who frequent reaction and info wars, led by a drunken troll who can't even spell even when he's sober. I just viewed it as an alternative to vanilla Gamergate. So I mean that's how our fans feel about us.
Alright.
We're on Facebook, Gamergate Ultras, and a big shout out to all my members, like Callan Elliott and Darren Miller, who are out there arguing on Twitter with Sarah Nyberg or SRH Butt. Also to Teresa Vimalia, who's arguing with Melinda Byerly today, who jumped in on some shit. Good work, guys. Keep it up. Done.
There we go. Kindra, where can people find you if they want to hear your ramblings?
You can find me on Twitter. My username is awomaninblue with all the underscores. And then I don't do like a lot of talking necessarily, but I do have a medium where I write about a lot of Gamergate related issues, and that link is on my profile page on Twitter. So
Cool. Awesome. Mozzie, where can they find you if they've not listened to the previous podcasts?
Where they always find me. On the Twitter, on the Tumblr, on the Facebooks, on the Google Plus, if necessary. But yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wherever there is Twitter, wherever there is SJWs, there he will be, slapping them about.
More just generally giving them sinus problems because, you know, being a cat and everything.
Yeah. Shedding hair on them and yeah, scratching.
And you'll find me on this YouTube channel if you're watching this, and you'll find me on on Twitter as a man in maroon. So there you go. Yeah,
Did you delete your old account or?
No, I just renamed it. It's the same account. I just renamed it. So yeah, just so you guys know, changed it to a man in maroon. I'm now part of the Color Cabal. It's
yay!
A super secret color cabal that nobody knows about.
Yeah, shush. You can never know. We secretly run Gamergate from the inside. So yeah, you can find me there. You can listen to me. Usually yell at people. That's a lot of what I do. All right. That is that. Peace out. Good night.